The refugee camp stretched across the valley like a patchwork quilt of different architectural styles. Each species had built shelters according to their own traditions, creating a strange but beautiful mixture of cultures. Tellman walked through the dusty paths between temporary homes, his 4 arms carrying supply crates for the newcomers. He had been working on Theta 7 for 3 years now, helping coordinate refugee placement across the human sanctuary worlds. The humans called these places safe havens, worlds where endangered species could rebuild their populations without fear. 47 different species had been saved from extinction through this program, and Tellman felt proud to be part of it. The sky above rippled with the shimmer of atmospheric shields, a constant reminder that protection came at a cost. Human engineers maintained these systems day and night, ensuring nothing harmful could penetrate from space. It seemed excessive to Tellman sometimes, but the humans insisted on multiple redundancy layers. "Observer Tellman," a voice called from behind. He turned to see Administrator Karen approaching with her datapad. "We just received confirmation from Earth. Another transport is arriving next week with Pelian refugees." The Pelians were down to their last 3,000 individuals after their home world had been consumed by stellar collapse. Humanity had mounted a desperate rescue operation, saving everyone they could. Now those survivors lived here, slowly rebuilding their culture under human protection. "How many this time?" Tillman asked. 200, mostly children." Karen smiled despite the sad circumstances. "At least they'll be safe here." Safe, that word carried weight in a galaxy where war and disaster claimed entire civilizations regularly. The humans seemed obsessed with the concept, building these sanctuary worlds far from conflict zones and staffing them with minimal military presence. Some species thought it foolish, leaving such valuable territory so lightly defended. Tellman disagreed. He had seen human compassion firsthand, watched them work tirelessly to help species they had never met before. If this was weakness, then the galaxy needed more of it. The communication hub suddenly burst alive with urgent messages. Alarms began wailing across the settlement. Tellman dropped his crates and ran toward the command center with Karen right behind him. Inside the main screen showed something that made his blood freeze. Warships, dozens of them in orbit. Their design was unmistakable, Vrathic Dominion vessels known throughout the galaxy for their brutal efficiency. "They're firing," someone shouted. The first orbital strikes hit the northern section of the camp. Defensive shields absorbed some impacts, but the sheer volume overwhelmed them quickly. Explosions tore through refugee housing. Tellman watched in horror as entire neighborhoods vanished in flames. "Get everyone to the bunkers." Karen was already moving, her calm demeanor replaced by urgent action. "Activate emergency protocols." Tellman helped evacuate nearby shelters, guiding confused and terrified refugees toward underground safety. A Pelian child clutched his lower arm, crying for her parents. He lifted her onto his shoulders and kept running. More strikes rained down. The beautiful patchwork camp was being systematically destroyed. Through the chaos, Tellman saw human security forces forming defensive lines, buying time for evacuations. They were outnumbered but fought with desperate courage. In orbit, Vrathic Commander Dulrex watched the attack with satisfaction. The sanctuary worlds had been easy targets, just as intelligence predicted. Minimal defenses, concentrated populations, and the psychological impact would be devastating. "Continue bombardment," he ordered. "Target the population centers. I want maximum casualties." His tactical officer hesitated. "Commander, these are civilian targets, refugees and aid workers." "Exactly." Dulrex bared his teeth in what passed for a Vrathic smile. "We're sending a message. Human compassion makes them vulnerable. Every species that sees this will understand the cost of weakness." The bombardment continued for hours. When it finally stopped, 40,000 lives had been extinguished. The other 2 sanctuary worlds faced similar assaults. Haven's Rest was under ground invasion, while New Beginnings was completely besieged. Admiral Rebecca Hayes stood in Earth Defense Command, watching the incoming reports with mounting fury. Her hands gripped the edge of her console hard enough to make her knuckles white. Around her, the command center operated in controlled chaos as officers coordinated emergency responses. Casualties confirmed on all three worlds, her second officer reported quietly. Preliminary estimates suggest 95,000 dead or missing. Most of them refugees. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. She had helped establish these sanctuary worlds, had personally overseen the placement of protection systems. Now those systems lay in ruins, and the people she had sworn to protect were dead. Admiral, President Daniel Wright appeared on the main screen. "I'm calling an emergency session of the Terran Council. We need to decide our response." "With respect, Mr. President, we already know what the response must be." Rebecca's voice was cold steel. "They didn't attack military installations. They murdered refugees under our protection." The council session was brief. Ambassador Liu spoke last, his voice breaking as he described his daughter who had died on Theta 7 while delivering medical supplies. "They crossed a line," he said. "They killed those who couldn't defend themselves, those we promised to keep safe." The vote was 54-3. Protocol Nightfall was authorized. Rebecca returned to her command post and entered the authorization codes with steady hands. Across human space, hidden military installations began powering up. Dormant weapon systems activated. Stealth fleets that had waited in the dark for decades suddenly came alive. The sanctuary worlds had never been undefended. The humans had simply made everyone believe they were. It was the perfect trap, baited with apparent weakness and sprung by enemy cruelty. Rebecca opened a channel to all human military forces. "This is Admiral Hayes. Protocol Nightfall is now active. They wanted to know what happens when you threaten our protected peoples. Show them." In the darkness between stars, hundreds of human warships began moving toward Vrathic-occupied territory. The enemy had crossed humanity's final line. Now they would learn why that was a fatal mistake. Telman huddled in the bunker with the Pelian child still clinging to him. He didn't know what would happen next. But he had seen the look in Karen's eyes before the blast doors sealed. It was not fear. It was promise. The humans would respond, and when they did, the galaxy would remember. Dulrex stood among the ruins of what had been a thriving community. His soldiers were busy cataloging valuable resources and rounding up survivors for the slave markets. Victory felt good, exactly as it should when the strong conquered the weak. "Commander," his communications officer approached. "Earth has sent a message." Dulrex laughed, already begging for mercy. "I expected them to last longer than this." He activated the message with casual arrogance. Admiral Hayes appeared on the screen, her face calm despite what must be churning inside her. "You have 4 hours to evacuate the sanctuary worlds, return all hostages, and leave our territory. This is your only warning." Dulrex laughed harder. "Reply with our fleet positions. Let them see how outnumbered they are." He switched to his tactical display. His forces controlled 3 worlds with 800 ships in supporting positions. Human vessels appeared on sensors but numbered less than 80. The first hour passed quietly. Human ships held position without advancing. Dulrex grew more confident with each minute. Perhaps the humans realized they couldn't win and were simply posturing for their own people. Second hour brought more human vessels, but still no attack. Dulrex ordered his troops to begin fortifying positions on the ground. If the humans wanted their worlds back, they would pay in blood for every meter. Third hour saw his commanders growing restless. "Why don't they attack?" his tactical officer asked. "They must know time favors us. Reinforcements are coming." "Because they're afraid," Dulrex replied. "They're farmers playing at war. They'll negotiate soon." The 4th hour deadline passed. Dulrex prepared to fire on the nearest human ship as a demonstration of resolve. His weapons officer targeted and fired. The energy beam lanced through space toward the human vessel. It passed through empty space. The ship had vanished. not jumped to faster-than-light travel, simply disappeared from all sensors simultaneously. "Report," Dulrex demanded. "All human ships just vanished from sensors." His officer's voice held confusion. "Advanced cloaking systems, we can't track them." Then the real attack began. The agricultural satellites surrounding Theta 7 opened like mechanical flowers. Weapon systems emerged from what everyone thought were civilian installations. Targeting arrays that had pretended to be communications equipment suddenly started painting Vrathic ships with aggressive sensor locks. Dulrex watched in disbelief as 60% of his orbital fleet disappeared from tactical display within 40 seconds. Not retreating, destroyed. The remaining ships desperately tried to target the platforms, but they were everywhere, hidden in asteroid fields. Disguised as defunct satellites, embedded in what looked like civilian infrastructure. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Return fire." His ships tried. They destroyed some platforms, but for every one eliminated, 3 more revealed themselves. The humans had turned their entire sanctuary system into a weapon. Every piece of civilian technology had a military purpose hidden beneath peaceful exterior. "Fleet strength at 40%, his tactical officer reported. "Recommend immediate withdrawal." Dulrex felt rage building. This was supposed to be easy. These were supposed to be weak humans who valued peace over strength. Instead, he faced a nightmare of hidden weapons and invisible ships. "Retreat to fallback position, regroup at coordinates 77 Alpha. He sent the command. His remaining ships began withdrawing. But withdrawal proved harder than expected. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, striking at engines and weapons systems before vanishing again. They weren't trying to destroy his fleet completely. They were crippling it, leaving ships helpless but intact. At Haven's Rest, Vrathic ground forces found themselves facing an equally impossible situation. The city they occupied was alive with automated defenses. Every building had hidden weapon systems. The streets themselves could deploy barriers and traps. Human soldiers appeared, struck, and vanished before Vrathic could respond effectively. Dulrex received similar reports from New Beginnings. His invasion force was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. He opened communications to Vrathic High Command. Empress Kilvara appeared, her expression demanding immediate explanation. "Report," she commanded. The humans were prepared. They had hidden military installations across all sanctuary worlds. "Our intelligence was wrong. They're not weak." "I don't accept excuses," Kilvara's voice cut like a blade. "You will complete your mission or you will die trying. I'm sending reinforcements, 800 additional ships, crush them." Dulrex wanted to argue but knew better. Vrathic culture didn't tolerate failure. He would either win or be replaced by someone who could. "Understood, Empress." He closed the channel and turned to his remaining officers. "Execute prisoners, 50 for every Vrathic soldier killed. Show the humans the cost of resistance." The executions began within minutes. Vrathic soldiers dragged refugees from holding areas and killed them in view of surveillance systems. They wanted the humans to see, wanted them to understand that continued fighting meant more innocent deaths. News of the executions reached Earth within the hour. Admiral Hayes watched the footage with her senior staff. Nobody spoke. The silence in the command center was absolute. Finally, Rebecca stood. "No more warnings, no more restraint. Activate Phase 3. "Admiral," her second officer hesitated. "Phase 3 is total war protocol. Once we begin, there's no scaling back." "I know exactly what it is." Rebecca's voice was ice. "They executed hostages to terrorize us, to make us surrender. Instead, they just eliminated the only thing holding us back." She opened fleet-wide communications. "All human vessels, you are weapons-free, no more disabled ships, no more mercy. Find every Vrathic ship in our territory and destroy it." They wanted to see what happens when they threaten our protected people. Show them. In orbit around Theta 7, human stealth ships received the order. They stopped disabling enemy vessels and started destroying them. Vrathic ships that had been wounded and waiting for rescue suddenly faced extinction. Dulrex watched his fleet dying. Ship after ship disappeared from tactical display, destroyed so quickly their crews never sent distress signals. Human vessels appeared, fired, and vanished like mechanical ghosts hunting through the darkness. He realized with growing horror that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't weak. They had simply been patient. They had built their defenses in secret and waited for someone foolish enough to attack. Now that patience was gone. "Send message to Empress," he ordered. "We need full mobilization. This isn't a skirmish anymore. This is war." But even as he sent the message, Dulrex knew the truth. The war had already been lost the moment he thought human compassion meant human weakness. Captain Amy Rhodes crouched in the darkness of the transport ship, checking her equipment one final time. Around her, 39 other human soldiers prepared for insertion onto Haven's Rest. Intelligence reported 2,000 hostages held in internment camps across the occupied city. 2 minutes to drop," the pilot's voice came through her helmet. "Weather is clear. Enemy sensors are focused on the orbital battle." Amy closed her eyes briefly, thinking about the mission briefing. The Vrathic had been executing hostages in groups of 50. Videos showed children being separated from parents, elderly refugees left wounded and untreated. It was systematic cruelty designed to break human resolve. Instead, it had unleashed something far worse. "Listen up," she addressed her team. "We go in fast and hard. Priority 1 is getting those people out alive. Priority 2 is making sure the Vrathic never forget what happens when they threaten unarmed refugees under our protection." The transport shuddered as they entered atmosphere. Amy felt the familiar rush of adrenaline mixed with fear. She had run dozens of combat operations, but this one felt different, personal. They dropped from 3,000 meters, individual descent modules spreading across the night sky like falling stars. Amy's boots hit ground in an alley 2 blocks from the target camp. Her team assembled within 60 seconds, a ghost unit moving through hostile territory. The camp was surrounded by Vrathic guards. Amy counted at least 300 from her position. Inside the wire, hostages huddled in groups, terrified and exhausted. She could see Pelian families, Quellan elders, human volunteers who had refused to abandon those they came to help. Green team suppressed the guard towers, blue team breached the eastern fence, red team with me through the main gate. She spoke quietly into the tactical network. "Remember, we're here for the hostages, not revenge." But even as she said it, Amy knew revenge would come anyway. Her team had seen the execution videos. They knew what these guards had done. The attack lasted 6 minutes. Human weapons fire came from 3 directions simultaneously. The guard towers exploded under precise strikes. The eastern fence dissolved under cutting charges. Amy led red team straight through the main entrance, her weapon finding targets with mechanical efficiency. Vrathic guards tried to organize defense, but faced an enemy that moved like liquid violence through their positions. Human soldiers used speed and surprise, hitting hard and disappearing before return fire could locate them. Amy reached the hostage area and immediately began organizing evacuation. "Everyone who can walk, move toward the eastern exit now. Medical personnel, identify wounded who need carriers." A Pelian child, no more than 6 years old by human standards, grabbed Amy's leg. "They killed my mother." The child's translator rendered the words in flat mechanical tones that somehow made them more heartbreaking. Amy knelt down. "I know, I'm sorry, but we're getting you out of here. Stay close to me." The evacuation proceeded rapidly. Human soldiers formed protective corridors while combat teams held off Vrathic reinforcements. Transports swooped in low, loading refugees as quickly as possible. Amy was coordinating the last group when she saw him, the Vrathic officer who had appeared in the execution videos, the one who had personally killed at least 30 hostages. He was trying to escape through a back exit. She could have let him go. Her mission was rescue, not revenge. But something in her snapped. She moved with purpose, intercepting him before he reached the exit. "Stop," she commanded. He turned, weapon rising. Amy was faster. Her shot took him in the shoulder. He fell, clutching the wound. She approached, keeping her weapon trained on him. "You killed refugees," she said quietly. "Children, elderly, people who couldn't fight back." "They were animals," he spat, beneath notice. Amy felt rage building but forced it down. "You're wrong. Every one of them mattered. Every life you took was precious to someone." She activated her communicator. "Command, I have a prisoner for war crimes tribunal requesting extraction." "Negative, Captain," the response came. "We don't have resources for prisoners. Deal with it as you see fit." Amy looked at the wounded Vrathic. She could kill him. It would be easy, justified, but she thought about the Pelian child clutching her leg, about what they were fighting for. "Get up," she ordered. "You're coming with us. You're going to stand trial. You're going to face the families of everyone you murdered." "Why not just kill me?" he asked. "Because we're not you," Amy replied. "We don't kill prisoners, not even ones who deserve it." Similar operations played out across all three sanctuary worlds. Human special forces teams hit every internment camp simultaneously. By dawn, 180,000 hostages had been freed. Vrathic casualties numbered in the thousands, while human losses stood at 400. Admiral Hayes received the reports with grim satisfaction. "Casualty ratio is acceptable. How many hostages did we recover?" "Everyone's still alive," her officer reported. "The Vrathic killed about 95,000 before we could intervene, but we saved all the survivors." Rebecca nodded. "Good, now comes the hard part." She activated the fleet-wide tactical display. Empress Kilvara's main battle fleet was en route to Earth, 2,000 ships, the largest Vrathic military force ever assembled. "They're coming to attack our home world," her second officer observed. "We could retreat, set up defensive positions in the outer system." "No," Rebecca's voice was firm. "We let them come to Earth. We let them think they're winning right up until they enter Sol's system. Then we show them why nobody attacks humanity's home." She zoomed in on the tactical display, showing the thousands of automated defense platforms hidden throughout the Sol system. Platforms that had been there for 50 years, disguised as debris and defunct satellites. The same defensive network that had shredded Dulrex's fleet at the Sanctuary Worlds, except 10 times larger. "They crossed our final line when they attacked the Sanctuary Worlds," Rebecca said quietly. "They doubled down when they executed hostages. Now they're about to learn that humanity's response to cruelty is not surrender, it's total war." Amy Rhodes sat in the transport heading back to the fleet, the Pelian child asleep against her shoulder. Around her, other soldiers held rescued refugees, human and alien together. The war wasn't over. The hardest battle still waited. But they had saved these lives that had to count for something. "Captain," one of her soldiers spoke, "do you think this will ever end peacefully?" Amy looked at the sleeping child. "I hope so, but peace requires both sides to want it. The Vrathic wanted war, so we'll give them war, and when it's over, maybe they'll understand why peace was always the better option." Outside, stars streaked past as the transport accelerated toward Earth, toward the final battle. Empress Kilvara stood on the command deck of her flagship, watching the blue-green sphere of Earth grow larger on the view screen. Around her vessel, 1,800 Vrathic warships maintained perfect formation, the largest invasion fleet in her empire's history. "They will surrender when they see our strength," she declared to her assembled commanders. "Their compassion makes them predictable. They'll sacrifice their pride to save their precious refugees." Commander Talvex, newly promoted after Dulrex's failures, felt less. Laughed, already begging for mercy. "I expected them to last longer than this." He activated the message with casual arrogance. Admiral Hayes appeared on the screen, her face calm despite what must be churning inside her. "You have 4 hours to evacuate the Sanctuary Worlds, return all hostages and leave our territory. This is your only warning. Dulrex laughed harder. Reply with our fleet positions. Let them see how outnumbered they are. He switched to his tactical display. His forces controlled 3 worlds with 800 ships in supporting positions. Human vessels appeared on sensors but numbered less than 80. The first hour passed quietly. Human ships held position without advancing. Dulrex grew more confident with each minute. Perhaps the humans realized they couldn't win and were simply posturing for their own people. Second hour brought more human vessels, but still no attack. Dulrex ordered his troops to begin fortifying positions on the ground. If the humans wanted their worlds back, they would pay in blood for every meter. Third hour saw his commanders growing restless. Why don't they attack? His tactical officer asked. They must know time favors us. Reinforcements are coming. Because they're afraid, Dulrex replied. They're farmers playing at war, they'll negotiate soon. The fourth hour deadline passed. Dulrex prepared to fire on the nearest human ship as a demonstration of resolve. His weapons officer targeted and fired. The energy beam lanced through space toward the human vessel. It passed through empty space. The ship had vanished, not jumped to faster-than-light travel, simply disappeared from all sensors simultaneously. Report, Dulrex demanded. All human ships just vanished from sensors. His officer's voice held confusion. Advanced cloaking systems, we can't track them. Then the real attack began. The agricultural satellites surrounding Theta 7 opened like mechanical flowers. Weapon systems emerged from what everyone thought were civilian installations. Targeting arrays that had pretended to be communications equipment suddenly started painting Vrathic ships with aggressive sensor locks. Dulrex watched in disbelief as 60% of his orbital fleet disappeared from tactical display within 40 seconds. Not retreating, destroyed. The remaining ships desperately tried to target the platforms, but they were everywhere, hidden in asteroid fields. Disguised as defunct satellites, embedded in what looked like civilian infrastructure. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. Return fire. His ships tried. They destroyed some platforms, but for every one eliminated, 3 more revealed themselves. The humans had turned their entire sanctuary system into a weapon. Every piece of civilian technology had a military purpose hidden beneath peaceful exterior. Fleet strength at 40%, his tactical officer reported. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Dulrex felt rage building. This was supposed to be easy. These were supposed to be weak humans who valued peace over strength. Instead, he faced a nightmare of hidden weapons and invisible ships. Retreat to fallback position, regroup at coordinates 77 Alpha. He sent the command. His remaining ships began withdrawing. But withdrawal proved harder than expected. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, striking at engines and weapons systems before vanishing again. They weren't trying to destroy his fleet completely. They were crippling it, leaving ships helpless but intact. At Haven's Rest, Vrathic ground forces found themselves facing an equally impossible situation. The city they occupied was alive with automated defenses. Every building had hidden weapon systems. The streets themselves could deploy barriers and traps. Human soldiers appeared, struck, and vanished before Vrathic could respond effectively. Dulrex received similar reports from New Beginnings. His invasion force was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. He opened communications to Vrathic High Command. Empress Kilvara appeared, her expression demanding immediate explanation. Report, she commanded. The humans were prepared. They had hidden military installations across all sanctuary worlds. Our intelligence was wrong. They're not weak. I don't accept excuses, Kilvara's voice cut like a blade. You will complete your mission or you will die trying. I'm sending reinforcements, 800 additional ships, crush them. Dulrex wanted to argue but knew better. Vrathic culture didn't tolerate failure. He would either win or be replaced by someone who could. Understood, Empress. He closed the channel and turned to his remaining officers. Execute prisoners, 50 for every Vrathic soldier killed, show the humans the cost of resistance. The executions began within. Planet killer or pursue the fleeing remnants of Kilvara's fleet. She couldn't do both. Captain Rhodes, she opened a channel to the Special Forces commander. We need someone to board the flagship and disable that weapon. It's a suicide mission. Amy looked at her team. They had just returned from rescuing hostages, still exhausted from that operation, but this was Earth. Home, there was no question. We volunteer, she said simply. 20 soldiers launched from a stealth transport, crossing space in individual assault pods. They hit the Vrathic flagship hard, breaching the hull and fighting through corridors filled with elite guards. 20 became 15, then 12, then 8 as they pushed toward the weapon control center. Amy led from the front, her weapon never stopping. She thought about the Pelian child she'd saved, about all the refugees counting on humanity's protection. They reached the control center. Kilvara stood personally overseeing the weapon activation. Her guard detail was formidable, but desperate humans were more so. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 6 human soldiers still stood. Kilvara lay wounded against a console. Amy approached. You ordered a planet-killer weapon, billions of lives. Your species should have submitted, Kilvara coughed blood. We are Vrathic, we are meant to rule. Amy disabled the weapon systems. You're meant to learn today's lesson. Humanity doesn't surrender and we protect our home. She took Kilvara prisoner and signaled for extraction. With their Empress captured, Vrathic Fleet Command ordered retreat. The invasion was over. Earth had survived, but 95,000 Sanctuary World refugees had not. Admiral Hayes watched the casualty list scrolling past. Victory felt hollow. The Galactic Council chamber held representatives from 200 species. All had come to witness the trial of Empress Kilvara. The Vrathic leader stood in a containment field, her wounds healed but her pride shattered. Ambassador Rizon presided over the proceedings. Kilvara of the Vrathic Dominion, you stand accused of genocide, war crimes against civilian populations, and attempted planetary destruction. How do you answer? I answer that might makes right. Kilvara's voice held no remorse. We attacked weakness. That is the way of the galaxy. The humans appeared vulnerable. We exploited that vulnerability. Evidence was presented. Videos of executions, testimony from survivors, data showing deliberate targeting of refugee populations. The Council watched in silence as the full scope of Vrathic cruelty unfolded. Tellman testified about the attack on Theta-7. He held the hand of the Pelian child as he described watching families die. The child spoke briefly, her translator struggling with grief. They killed my mother for no reason. She was just bringing water to the sick. Admiral Hayes took the stand. The sanctuary worlds existed to protect endangered species. We asked only to be left alone. The Vrathic saw our compassion as weakness. They learned otherwise. The Council deliberated for 3 days. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. Kilvara was sentenced to life imprisonment. The Vrathic Dominion was ordered to disarm 80% of its military and pay reparations. But the Council's attention soon turned to humanity itself. You deceived us, the Quellan representative accused. Hidden weapons, secret military capabilities, how can we trust you? Rebecca stood to address the assembled species. We built defenses, yes. We hid them, certainly. But consider why. We studied galactic history. We saw what happens to peaceful species. They get conquered by those who mistake kindness for weakness. We decided that wouldn't happen to us. You could have shared this technology, another representative argued. Helped other species defend themselves. And risk it being used for conquest, Rebecca countered. Our weapons were built for defense only. We never attacked anyone. We only responded when attacked. There's a difference. The debate raged for hours. Some species wanted humanity punished for deception. Others praised human restraint. Still others simply feared the power humanity had revealed. Finally, Rebecca raised her hand for silence. I want to make something very clear to everyone in this chamber. Humanity desires peace. We'll trade with any species, share knowledge, cooperate on scientific advancement, but understand this. We have final lines that must not be crossed. She activated a display showing the sanctuary worlds before and after Vrathic attack. These were our final lines. Protect those under our care. Respect refugee sanctuaries. Don't target civilians. The Vrathic crossed all of them. This is what happened. The display shifted to show Vrathic fleet losses, captured commanders imprisoned. Empress, we could have destroyed their entire civilization. We chose not to. We could have pursued total revenge. We chose restraint, but never mistake restraint for inability. We want you to know what we're capable of so you never force us to use it. We want peace, but we'll accept war if necessary. We'll help those who need it, but we'll destroy those who threaten innocence under our protection. 6 months after the trial, reconstruction of the sanctuary worlds was nearly complete. Species from across the galaxy had contributed aid. Even ordinary Vrathic citizens sent donations, ashamed of their government's actions. Captain Amy Rhodes walked through the rebuilt refugee camp on Theta 7. The Pelian child, whose name translated as Dawn, walked beside her. The child had asked to stay with Amy rather than return to Pelian settlement groups. Why did you save us? Dawn asked. We're not human, we can't help you fight wars. Amy knelt down. That's exactly why we saved you, because you couldn't fight, because you needed protection. That's what humanity does. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Even when it costs you. Especially then, Amy smiled. The cost reminds us why it matters. They reached the memorial, a massive structure listing every name of those killed in the Vrathic attack. 95,000 individuals, human and alien together. The inscription read, "They died under our protection. We failed to save them, but we avenged them. May their sacrifice remind all species, cruelty has consequences." Ambassador Ryzon approached. He had stayed on Earth after the trial, trying to understand humans better. "Captain Rhodes, may I speak with you?" "Of course, Ambassador." "I've been asked to report on humanity's character," Ryzon said carefully. "Some species still fear you. They see your military power and worry about future aggression." Amy looked at Dawn, then at the memorial. "Tell them this. Humans are capable of terrible violence. We proved that, but we're also capable of choosing not to use it. We had the Vrathic Empress at our mercy. We could have executed her. We chose trial instead. We could have destroyed the Vrathic civilization. We chose reformation instead. Tell them that humanity has two faces. One offers friendship, cooperation, and protection. The other offers total war. Which face we show depends entirely on how we're treated. Cross our final lines, and you'll face our fury. Respect those lines, and you'll find no better ally. 10 years later, the galaxy had changed. 200 species lived under human protection programs. Not one had been attacked. The memory of what happened to the Vrathic served as deterrent to anyone considering aggression. Dawn had grown up. She now worked as a cultural liaison between Pelian and human communities. She often visited the memorial, remembering her mother, remembering the day Amy saved her. Admiral Hayes had retired from military service. She now served as humanity's chief ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her first official act was proposing better protection standards for endangered species. The proposal passed unanimously. One evening, Rebecca received a message from an unknown source. It was brief. "You humans are strange. You build weapons to avoid using them. You train soldiers to protect civilians. You win wars, then help your enemies recover. We don't understand you, but we respect you. Thank you for showing us there's another way." The message was signed by a young Vrathic officer who had served under Dulrex, who had witnessed human soldiers choosing mercy over revenge, who had gone home and started advocating for reform. Rebecca smiled. Maybe the 95,000 hadn't died in vain. Maybe their sacrifice had taught the galaxy a lesson worth learning. Outside her window, Earth rotated peacefully. its hidden defenses still watching, its soldiers still ready, its final lines clearly marked for anyone paying attention. The galaxy was safer because humanity had proven one simple truth. Compassion and capability weren't opposites. They were complements, and the most dangerous opponent was one who could destroy you but chose to offer peace instead.